In the last two videos, we looked at early signs of ADHD and early signs of autism in young children. And if you watched both, you might have noticed something surprising. Some of these patterns look almost identical. A child who struggles with transitions. A child who reacts strongly to small changes. A child who seems either constantly on or completely overwhelmed. And that leads to a very common question. How can you tell the difference? Today, we're going to look at that question. Not by listing symptoms, but by understanding the patterns behind the behavior. Because from the outside, things can look similar. But underneath, the brain is working in very different ways. Let's start with something many parents notice first. A child who seems constantly in motion. They run, climb, jump from one thing to the next. They have energy that feels almost endless. At first, this can look the same in both ADHD and autism. But if you look a little closer, you start to see a difference. In ADHD, the movement is often about seeking stimulation. The brain is looking for input, for novelty, for something engaging. The activity is flexible. It shifts quickly from one thing to another. In autism, movement can look similar, but often serves a different purpose. It can be more repetitive, more rhythmic, more focused on creating a sense of stability. So, on the surface, movement. But underneath, one brain is seeking stimulation. The other is creating structure. Now let's look at attention. A child with ADHD may seem unable to focus. They start something, then quickly move on. They get distracted easily. Their attention is pulled in many directions. But here's the key. Their attention is driven by interest. If something is exciting enough, they can focus deeply, sometimes for a long time. The challenge is controlling where attention goes. Now compare that to autism. Here, attention often looks different. Instead of constantly shifting, it can become very fixed. A child may focus intensely on one activity, one object, or one topic. And the difficulty is not starting attention, but shifting it away. So, again, from the outside, both children might not respond when you call them, but for completely different reasons. One is pulled away by something else. The other is deeply locked into what they're already doing. Let's talk about social connection. This is one of the most important differences, but also one of the most misunderstood. A child with ADHD often wants connection. They seek interaction. They look for engagement. But their impulsivity can get in the way. They interrupt. They miss social cues. They may act before thinking. So the connection is there, but it's harder to regulate. In autism, the pattern can be different. Some children may seek less social interaction, or engage in ways that feel different. They may not naturally look to share experiences in the same way. It's not about not caring. It's about the brain not automatically prioritizing social information. So again, both children might struggle socially, but one struggles with regulation inside connection, the other with how connection is processed. Now, let's look at emotional reactions. Both ADHD and autism can involve strong emotions, meltdowns, frustration, overwhelm. And this is where many parents feel confused, because the reaction looks the same, but the cause is often different. In ADHD, emotional reactions are often linked to impulse control. The feeling comes quickly, and the brain struggles to slow it down. In autism, emotional reactions are often linked to overwhelm. Too much sensory input, too much unpredictability, too much change at once. So again, same behavior, different underlying process. Let's look at routines and change. A child with ADHD may resist transitions, but often because they are engaged in the current activity and don't want to stop. Their resistance is about shifting attention. In autism, routines often play a deeper role. Predictability creates safety. And when that predictability is disrupted, it can feel genuinely distressing, not just inconvenient, but overwhelming. So the outside behavior might look the same, resistance to change. But inside, one brain struggles to disengage, the other struggles with unpredictability. Now, let's bring in something we haven't fully connected yet: sensory processing. In ADHD, children often seek stimulation. They move, touch, explore. Their nervous system is looking for input. In autism, sensory processing is often more intense or more sensitive. Sounds may feel overwhelming. Textures may feel uncomfortable. Light may feel too bright. Or the child may actively seek specific types of input to regulate themselves. This sensory layer explains a lot of behavior that might otherwise seem confusing. So here's the big picture. ADHD is primarily about regulating attention, impulses, and activity. Autism is primarily about differences in social processing, sensory experience, and predictability. And that's why they can sometimes look similar on the surface, but feel very different once you understand the patterns. Let's bring this into one simple example. Imagine two children at a birthday party. Both become overwhelmed. Both start to cry. Both want to leave. From the outside, it looks identical. But one child is overwhelmed because there is too much happening at once. Too much noise. Too much input. The other child is overwhelmed because they can't regulate their excitement, their impulses, their emotions. Same situation. Different brain processes. And this is why understanding the why matters so much more than labeling the behavior. Because once you understand the underlying pattern, you respond differently. You don't just try to stop the behavior, you support the system behind it. Here's a very simple way to think about it. ADHD is often about, I can't control where my brain goes. Autism is often about, the world feels different to my brain. And just to make this very clear, here is a simple side-by-side summary. ADHD often looks like difficulty controlling attention, highly flexible but easily distracted focus, strong desire for interaction, and impulsive emotional reactions. Autism often looks like more fixed attention, differences in social engagement, a strong need for predictability, and sensory sensitivities. And the most important thing to remember is this: these are not labels to rush toward. They are ways of understanding patterns. Because when you understand how a child's brain works, you can meet them where they are. And that's what actually helps. In the next video, we're going to look at something very practical. What actually helps children with these patterns before any diagnosis is even part of the conversation? Because there are simple things that can make a huge difference in everyday life. And if this video helped you see things more clearly, you can share it with someone who might be asking the same questions right now.